European Union calls for legal operation reform 2023 elections. Now, the European Union Election Observation Mission has called for legal and operational reforms in the Nigerian electoral processes in order to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability in the electoral systems. The European Union Election Observation Mission specifically listed 6 areas which it said, if implemented, could contribute to the improvement of the conduct of elections in Nigeria. The 6 priority recommendations were for the Nigerian government to remove ambiguities in the law, establish a publicly accountable selection process for independent National Electoral Commission members, to ensure a real-time publication of and access to election results, provide greater protection for media practitioners, address discrimination against women in political life, and impunity regarding electoral offences. Now presenting its final report on the 2023 election in Abuja, the European Union Election Observation Mission Chief Observer Barry Andrews said in the lead-up to the 2023 general elections, Nigerian citizens demonstrated a clear commitment to the democratic process. That said, the election exposed enduring systematic weaknesses and therefore signaled a need for further legal and operational reforms to enhance transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability. Now, the European Union Election Observation Mission stated that the shortcomings in law and electoral administrations hindered the conduct of well-run and inclusive elections and damaged trust in the Independent National Electoral Commission. He further said that the aim of contributing to the improvement of future elections in the country, the European Union Election Observation Mission is offering 23 recommendations for consideration by Nigerian authorities. Now, in the executive summary of the report, the European Union Election Observation Mission said that the 2023 general election did not ensure a well-run, transparent, and inclusive democratic process, as assured by the Independent National Electoral Commission. It added that public confidence and trust in INEC was severely damaged during the presidential polls and not restored in state-level election, leading civil societies to call for an independent audit of the entire process. The European Union Election Observation Mission said abuse of incumbency by various political office holders distorted the playing field and widespread vote buying distracted from an appropriate conduct of the elections. Now, incidents of the organized violence shortly before and on election days in several states created an environment deterring voters' participation. Media raised voters' awareness. Fast checkers stood up against disinformation, and civil society demanded that INEC's accountability. Now, the overall outcome of the polls attested to the continued underrepresentation of marginalized groups in political life. Positively, candidates and parties disrupting outcomes took their complainings to the courts, although the number of such cases was extensive. The electoral rigor framework lays an adequate foundation of the conduct of democratic elections, with key regional and international standards being ratified. However, gaps and ambiguities in national law enabled conventions do not safeguard transparency, while also allow undue restrictions to the right to stand and vote. Fundamental freedoms of assemblies, association, and expression, while constitutionally guaranteed, were not always well protected. The Wild Welcome Electoral Act 2022, the 2022 Act, introduced measures aimed at building a stakeholders' trust. However, the Act's first test in the general election revealed critical gaps in the terms of the INEC's accountability and transparency, proved to be insufficiently elaborated, and lacked clear provision for timely and efficient implementations. Now, big points include a lack of INEC's independent structures and breach of campaigns financial rules. Furthermore, the presidential section of INEC's leadership at the federal and state level leaves the electoral institutions vulnerable to the perception of partiality. Now, early in the process, while enjoying a broad stakeholders' trust, INEC introduced a series of positive measures to strengthen the conduct of the elections. However, closer to the polls, some started to doubt INEC's administrative and operational efficiency and in-house capacity. Public confidence gradually decreased and was severely damaged on February 25th due to its operational failures and lack of transparency. While some corrective measures introduced before the March 18th elections were effective, overall trust was not restored. The introduction of the Bimola Vote Accreditation System (BVAS) and the INEC Results Viewing Portal (IREV) was widely seen as an important step to ensure the integrity and credibility of the elections. In practice, multiple missteps and lack of transparency before the polls, compounded by several delayed displays of presidential result forms, dashed the public trust in election technologies used. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission failed to give a timely and comprehensive explanations of the failures of the February 25th elections, hence the improved online display of results forms from 18th of March. 18 state elections just fueled further speculations about what exactly caused the delays after the presidential polls. A total of 93.4 million voters were registered for the 2023 elections, owing the civic mobilizations during registrations. Two-thirds of the 9.5 million new registrants were youths, yet poor institutional planning and again lack of transparency negatively affected the collation of the permanent voters card (PVC). Now, the confidence in collation rates per polling unit was undermined due to their blatant publications. Overall, an external independent audits could have helped to assure accuracy and inclusiveness of the voters register. Now, following a contentious candidate registration process, there were 18 contestants for the presidential office, 4,223 for National Assembly seats, and some 11,000 for state elections. All candidates were selected in party primaries, many of which reportedly involved excessive costs to participate, lack of transparency, and were marked by low level of participation of women as aspiring candidates. Now, leading political parties fielded only two female candidates for highly prized governor seats. They demonstrated a severe underrepresentation of women in the political life and lack of internal party policies to support inclusion, contrary to the constitutional principles and international commitments. Excessive pre-election litigations exposed passively inter-party conflicts and compounded by the protect legal deadlines for solving candidacy disputes created uncertainty for voters, electoral contestants, and INEC alike. Among the 1,200 court cases, some were perceived as politicalized, others too technical, while others overlapped with the polls. Some legal disputes negatively impacted candidates' prospects and meaningful campaigns, while others risked undermining trust in the democratic processes. Now, the campaign extended under the 2022 Act took in place in a shifting political landscape with ongoing regalement across party lines. It was competitive and the presidential contestants conducted rallies nationwide, but naira cash and fuel scarcity and insecurity reduced activities and attendance. Canvassing, while personality-centered and many governors used their executive power to tilt the playing field, overall deceptive rhetoric, white ethnic and religious undertones led to increased polarization. Now, the European Union Election Observation Mission recorded 101 violent incidents during the campaigns, including at least 74 fatalities. Abstentions attempts and killing increased. Assassination attempts and killing increased closer to the polls, creating a particularly insecure environment in the southern states. In several northern states, systematic attacks by political thugs on rallies and political opponents were observed. Use of violence obstructed the campaign, disturbed the election, and suppressed voters' participation. Campaigning was also disrupted by an influx of unrecorded money and, despite campaign finance being comprehensively regulated by the law, appeared largely ineffective. Now, reacting to the report, INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voters Education, Festus Okoye said, INEC should not be judged based on the basis of glitch in results uploaded for a presidential election. Okoye said, in assessing the process, Nigerians must make start from the positive. Were there be positives to this election? My answer is in the affirmative. One of the commissions registered a lot of Nigerians to vote during the elections, and the commission also engaged in a lot of voters and civic education that engaged Nigerian people with the electoral process. Secondly, the Commission introduced technologies in terms of voters registration and Commission introduced technology in terms of candidates, nomination, and the Commission also introduced technologies in terms of accreditation and domestic and international observers, including the media. That is a positive side. Now, the Commission also introduced technology in the electoral processes itself. Nigerians have commended the Commission for the introduction of the beavers for the purpose of voters accreditation. Now, in terms of voters accreditation, nobody, and absolutely nobody, has faulted the functionality of the beavers in the election that was just conducted. Now, the only challenge in this commission is, or has had, in the issue of results upload for presidential elections only, and I believe it's not a fair thing to judge the entire performance of the commission on the basis of the glitch in the results uploaded for the presidential election, Mr. Okoye said. That's